Hello and welcome to another session of ABACAST. It's my very great pleasure today to be welcoming Aaron Payas. Welcome.
Thank you.
Lovely
Thank
to
you
see
for
you
having me.
again. Aaron's from Hassan's. He'll tell us a little bit more about what he does there in a minute. But perhaps we can kick off by just kind of rewinding to your very young days. When people ask me the question, what was it like growing up in Gibraltar? I have my story. I'm a pre-frontier closure age kid. I don't think you're in that generation.
No,
so why don't you tell us about what your experience of growing up in Gib was?
Yeah, so I was born in 1985, so when the frontier opened. So I thankfully never experienced the border being closed. But yeah, growing up in Gibraltar is, my memories are similar to what I've done in my professional life. It's a small place where you have a bit of everything. It just allowed you to do. You had time to do whatever you wanted to. So used to go to school, had time to go home. When we had time to go home to have lunch actually, which was amazing. After school, go training, do your homework, do any other after school activities. So I just remember being super active. Me and my brothers, I've got two elder brothers. I was into football, they were swimmers. But I just remember us being super active. They used to do a lot of swimming in here in Gibraltar. They used to go over the border sometimes to swim in La Linea or in Algeciras. So those are my memories. So super active in school, but also super active after school. And of course, with the support of my parents and my three grandparents at the time, was my main memories. A lot of family time, but a lot of activity as well.
Yeah, I think Gibraltarians are great advocates for precisely that. The convenience of a small place, the intimacy of living in a small community, the proximity of family, and all those are just brilliant strengths when we talk about the wider world. But do you ever find that, have you ever found that I suppose what we might complain about is that it's parochial life. It's small, it's life on a small scale, for obvious reasons, but that's also true of the kind of the mindset. Has that ever been a challenge for you in either your personal or professional career?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think, although still people think we're an island, we're not an island. So in terms of being stuck in Gibraltar, again, post the opening of the border, there's no such thing. So if you want to get out, you can get out into the great area of the south of Spain for day trips or weekend holidays. So no need to be stuck here. But I've always seen it more of an advantage on how quickly you can get around here in Gibraltar, how many things you can fit into one day. And that's been key, or was key for me in my early years, and continued to be even after university when I returned to work here. It's if you drill down into my story, it's actually the major factor, the fact that you can be at work until 7:30 and still be at football training at 8. That opens up so many opportunities. So you can either take advantage of those opportunities, or you can relax. You can do something else with your life and not maybe be as productive. But I always took it as seeing opportunities everywhere and deciding, okay, which ones am I going to go after?
Yes, I think you're right. I think that post-frontier closure generations, that is yourselves, my kids, for example, do have a very cosmopolitan outlook, and the fact that we have been able to access the wider world over the last 30 or plus years has been of huge benefit to our outlook and to the international dimension that we bring to our work, as much as the local culture as well. You've already referred to sport to some degree, and I know that sport has been a major part of your life. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your involvement in local sport?
Yes, so as I mentioned before, so really grew up in a family full of sports people, very, very hard workers. And so I used to play football, I used to play hockey, I used to swim a bit, but around the age of 13, 14, I decided, no, football is the one that I want to dedicate myself to, so I'm going to cut out anything else so that I can really focus and progress as quickly as possible in the one sport of choice. So grew up here, making my way through youth football, and then quickly became part of the senior team. I was at Manchester Football Club here at the time. Made my senior debut at 15, made my GFA senior debut at 16. So that was very much my focus at the time. So GCSEs, A-levels, fully focused on those, did very well, but there was a big focus on being the best I could be at football as well. So then you've got the university years where you lose a bit of the connection with the Gibraltar football simply because you're not here. But I used to come back often, play in the summers, play a lot, never lost touch with the national team. So when I returned, started working at Hassan's, it was just a continuation of that, as I said before. The ability to work, you don't need to leave work early, you could work until 7, 8 p.m, still go to training. Or go to training and come back, which is something which I did often. I often left the office, went to training, and actually returned for a couple of hours if I needed to. So can you really do that anywhere else in the world? Now it's a bit easier with remote working, but at the time, 15 years ago, it wasn't an option.
Yes. And was law something you had wanted to do, or was there just a kind of utilitarian thing about the fact that law is just so useful right across a whole bunch of different sectors and disciplines?
Yeah, it's a great question, actually. I always thought about law, but it was very clear to me that I've always been more of a numbers guy. And that's not something very common that you see with lawyers, actual or great fluency with numbers. But at the time, the financial services sector in Gibraltar, I'm talking about 2002, 2003, it wasn't as developed as it is now. If you think about the funds, the EIF regime was introduced in 2005. Just tells you how much it's developed since then. So there weren't that many opportunities in terms of going down the maths route and coming back and what opportunities were here. So it took a conversation, two main conversations, one with the senior partner at Hassan's who knew my family very well. And the other was a lawyer, actually, good friend of my brother, who said there's two routes to get into law anyway. You could do a law degree and then do the bar vocational course and become a barrister, or 2 years and become a solicitor, or you could do some other degree and then do a 1-year conversion into law and then become a barrister. So it became very clear to me that I wanted to do a degree in mathematics because I was very good at it, but I didn't have it clear what I wanted to be when I came back from uni. Didn't know what career path I wanted, and I knew that by doing a degree in mathematics, it would open up a lot of doors, and it wouldn't close any, which was super important for me. So even back then, that was my thinking in terms of the choices that I was making at the time. So so I ended up finishing the degree in mathematics. The job offer was still on the table from Hassan's, so converted into law, became a barrister and came back to work here. I always wanted to return because of the football. Again, I wanted to play, and I wanted to continue representing my country was super important to me. So it all worked out very well. The managing partner at the time, who's still the managing partner now at Hassan's, had the great foresight to put me into the funds department. So giving me that exposure to the stock market, to asset management, to the world of hedge funds and all of these things. And that was great for me because it gave me my little fix of numbers that I was always craving. And I always crave. I do miss it to a certain extent. And then I started my postgraduate, if you want to call it that. I wanted to get more into asset management. I wanted to learn more about what my clients did and were doing, because I felt I could help them better if I understood better what they were doing. So I enrolled onto the CFA, so it's the Chartered Financial Analyst course in the US, kind of the global standard for asset management, and that was really interesting and really rewarding for me. So I decided to finish studying at that point. The professional development has continued, but I felt there I had the foundations I had completed the foundations for what I wanted to build. So had my degree in mathematics, had my law background, had my postgraduate the CFA Charter, and was working in a wonderful law firm, a very big law firm with very international in scope, and working with incredible clients. And that was the first 10 years, about 10 years of my career, and then crypto came along.
Yes. Before we get into crypto, though, I mean, I just think that from the way you've described it, it shows remarkable clarity of vision, because even though you didn't have necessarily every step planned ahead, you still had the foresight to understand that, yes, let's keep the doors open, let's keep the options available, and as you start to grow into these roles, the vision will become clearer and your passion will start to come through in those areas. So
correct.
That comes through very clearly, actually.
Correct, and that's not by chance. That's purely by design. So from an early age, I think about. Well, I said before, 13, 14, I decided I'm cutting out everything else, focusing on football, because that's what's required to get to the top, at least to the top here in Gibraltar. But I think about 17, 18, I became very, very focused on self-development. So self-development, I think we all develop, but self-development in the sense that you're proactively looking for things to do to develop yourself. And that's been very much a focus, and it actually still is, even in the way that I'm trying to raise my two boys. You need to look at how you can develop, but not only that, how can you develop quicker and more efficiently? How do you optimize your learning? And a lot of that, it can get super deep, maybe out of the scope of this podcast, but you can even get into how you are learning, into the art of learning, if you want to put it one way. And all that does is it's compounding interest. So the what you're putting in, it's not just quantity of your learning, it's the quality of it as well. So activity by itself doesn't mean progress. It's specific activity, intentional practice in football, specific studying in your professional life. So if you can learn better and then you're super organized, super determined, you work very hard. But at the same time, you don't take it to a level, you're not a perfectionist, you don't get too overwhelmed with how much you need to do. No, you manage yourself, depending on your character, you stop when you need to stop, you take it to a level, but not too far. But on a consistent basis over a period of many years, which for me is now, say, 25 years, I'm 40 now, is where you see the results, and it's very sometimes easy to, maybe in hindsight for me now, to say this is what I've been doing, but it actually works, and you can see the results in short time frames. So that is the focus that you've mentioned, and the ability to grab opportunities with both hands and make the best of it.
Yeah, and I think as an employer, I think the best thing you can do to someone is say, what do you want to do? How can I invest in you more? What do you want to learn?
Yeah.
Because that's telegraphing to the individual that actually you're really interested in them as a person, but also that you're interested in their development too.
Yeah.
And again, what comes through, I think, from your narrative is that a lot of that has been self-driven.
Yeah.
It's a little bit easier when you're helping people to do that for themselves, but
Yeah.
What comes through in your story, I think, is the fact that you've had that focus from the start and you're getting there. Just as a kind of by the by, I think the statistics say that your learning prowess peaks at 39. So I think you're past that.
I'm past it, I'm on the way down.
But at 40, your crystalline intelligence takes over and you start to teach better, you start to teach more, and you become a natural teacher. So you've got all of that to look forward to as your next set of goals.
Yeah, and I think up to now I've been trying to lead by example more than anything else. I do try to get my message across, but sometimes it's difficult. It's difficult to find the right balance on trying to give golden nuggets of advice, but rambling on for too long.
Yes, I know the feeling. So yeah, you've already mentioned crypto, and I think at the risk of people just sort of switching off immediately at the sound of that word, perhaps we can talk about crypto in terms that actually are accessible to people who would be interested to know more about it. And therefore, I think possibly the best place to start again is with your experience of it, and when you first heard about it, what your first response to it was. Why did it become something that you thought, that looks interesting, that sounds a place I could go?
Yeah. So I think straight away the mathematical background kicks in, because at the end of the day, it's all programming, it's all mathematical logic that you're looking at. So when you're looking at blockchain technology, it is proper programming done, things that work from a mathematical perspective. So that was very convenient for me, because intuitively I could understand the technology maybe better than others. So I remember my early conversations with people in the space, and the feedback was like, no other lawyer has asked the questions that you're asking. So I was trying to delve a bit deeper. Programming being one of the core modules in a maths degree. So that's where that comes from. So it was super exciting, because once you get into it, and you see that from a mathematical angle, it actually works, and there's no reason why it would fail, at least for the foreseeable future. There's a big question mark over quantum computing, what it's going to do to crypto. But that was my early experiences with crypto. I went all into crypto in terms of doing a bit of investment, speaking to clients, trying to help startups get off the ground, speaking to regulators, speaking to tax specialists on how this new asset class is going to be treated. So it was an incredible time. It was an incredible time because it was uncharted territory. Everything was unprecedented. Any agreement that we worked on, it simply hadn't been done before. So you were trying to adapt existing agreements. If it's a financial crypto, then you try to pull from the traditional finance world. but it was all very difficult because you couldn't turn to someone else who had done it before, someone more experienced, which is the norm, and say, what do you think of this?
Yes, no template. Yeah.
So it was a very collaborative effort, which I think, being someone who comes from team sports, I enjoyed a lot as well. So internally within Hassan's, but then the network in Gibraltar also worked very collaboratively. And then we found, when we went out to conferences, we found that it was the same, but on a more international scale. So a lot of the friends that we made back then are still very good friends now, and we're still in the space, and we've been able to learn from each other and use each other as sounding boards, and it's been a wonderful experience, and crazy how a completely new industry just gets born, and you can actually make a career out of this new thing that wasn't there when 10 years ago or 15 years ago.
What's interesting about crypto, I think, is that it's acquired its own mythology at the same time as it's been developing, hasn't it? Yeah. And for someone like me, I'm the exact opposite of you. I'm totally allergic to numbers. I'm much more literate in my approach to things. And therefore the word crypto has implications of a crypt, which is a dark, deep dungeon.
Yeah.
I'm probably not the first one to say that. But at some point, there must have been a kind of light bulb moment for you that said, actually, this is not just simply interesting intellectually and exciting because of what I can develop here, but there must also have been a point at which you thought, that's the future of business. Yeah. Can you tell us about that moment?
Yeah, well, so it's in a way, there wasn't one such moment. What there was a lot of inquiries, a lot of new clients knocking on your door, sending you emails saying, this is my new idea. It is in the crypto space. I want to do it in Gibraltar. Can you help me? At Hassan's, at the peak of this, which was end of 2017, beginning of 2018, we had a committee of five people. We used to meet Mondays at 8 a.m. for a coffee outside Hassan's, because we had to filter out which inquiries we were going to deal with and which ones we were going to reject. We were getting like 10 to 15 inquiries per week at its height, and all things that you had never seen before. So we actually had a committee just focused on the filtering process. Which ones do we think have legs? Which ones are serious? Which ones aren't? Just a crazy time.
So it's the stimulus of the external demand,
correct,
plus your own innate sense of I'm excited by just doing new business and new things in business. That's the stimulus.
Yeah. And also internally at Hassan's, being such a significant law firm here in Gibraltar, we couldn't just say, no, we don't do crypto. We're not specialists in this area. Like, we had to. So a lot of them were existing clients. So what do you say to them? No, go somewhere else. So we had to develop the expertise. We were, in a way, I wouldn't say forced, because we wanted to do it anyway, but to a certain extent, we had to do it as well. We had to provide that service to our clients and our potential clients.
I think part of the mythology around crypto that I'm referring to is also a kind of alarmist state of mind, isn't it, to some degree, by people who don't know much about it.
Correct.
And as soon as you hear it, alarm bells start to ring, or people become instinctively defensive about it.
Correct.
Could you help me and others who might be listening to this to talk through what those misconceptions might be and why they are unfounded? Or
you're probably not expecting this answer, but I think that scrutiny was super important. It was, at one point, it was the Wild West in crypto, and people were making a lot of money scamming people. So selling tokens, new tokens, promising the world to them, and then just disappearing because they'd come across $40 million in 24 hours just by selling tokens, which were backed by nothing. So I think that a lot of the scrutiny was was super important. I never like to say you're like good and evil. Like it's, I think everything has helped us get to where we are now. But yes, sometimes you can see, like before the Trump administration, we had the SEC in the US being super aggressive against and super anti-crypto, to the point where it was getting ridiculous how they were stopping and targeting anyone who had anything to do with crypto. And that wasn't a good thing. So now we see the difference with a change of approach in the US. In Europe, we have the new markets in crypto assets directive, which above anything else, it provides a seal of approval on the asset class, on the whole industry. And that has just allowed everyone in the space to grow and develop with much more confidence than they had before. But yes, there's a lot of things are unfounded. A lot of them are real. There's been a lot of scams. There's been a lot of things which are happening, which need to be stopped. There are some AML concerns. Now, some of them say they paint crypto to be the main problem for under AML, and it isn't. There's many magnitudes of more issues, and in terms of volume, monetary-wise, of issues with money laundering in the traditional finance world than there is in crypto. And crypto is also very traceable. So there are some privacy coins, but most of the coins that are traded, you can actually, it's basically an explorer. You go, I can give you a wallet address, and you place it onto the explorer, and you'll see every single transaction that has happened there since the beginning, since the wallet was created. So that is a good thing for AML, because you can do proper tracking of movement of assets in and out of that wallet. Whereas with a bank account, it's impossible for you to do that. So some things are unfounded, some things they were right to call out, and they are still right to continue calling out. And I think as long as proper investigations are carried out before making any accusations, I think everything is fair game and allows the industry to mature.
I think possibly one of the misconceptions, or one of the main misconceptions, is not so much related to risk and anti-money laundering as you've described, but probably more in relation to its applications, because crypto is what we might call a synecdoche. It's like a term that covers a whole multitude of different things.
Yes.
And without getting into too much detail on what those different bits are, is it not also the case that for some people, just talking about crypto, the misconception would be, well, what kind of applications does this have in my life?
Yeah.
And maybe as someone who's been there from the beginning, you can start to eulogize a little bit about why it's the future of business.
Yeah, so it's just a new piece of technology. So when you will remember when we couldn't do online banking, and then we had the opportunity to do online banking, and then you can do mobile banking. When you use the app of whichever bank you use, you don't wonder what's going on in the back end. All you want to know is, can I see my transactions? Can I see how many I have in my account? And can I make and receive payments? That's it. Have you ever stopped to think, well, what technology is being used behind?
Yeah.
So whether that technology is something that's been used for many years, or it gets replaced by blockchain technology, you really, one, you wouldn't care, and two, you don't need to understand to use the app itself. And I think that's where we're going to get to. There's going to be use cases for blockchain technology that is going to be implemented, is already started to be implemented in many different spaces, particularly in payments, because cross-border payments of fiat currencies is a massive deal. and it's very clunky. There's a lot of friction and a lot of fees that go along with it. So it's not efficient. So that's one of the major, and has been the major uses of blockchain technology. And the crypto, which is the asset that moves on top of the blockchain technology, or through the blockchain technology, has been one of the major uses in payments.
Yes. I think in a sense you've already answered the next question I was going to ask, which is crypto here to stay? And again, that's an inevitable question, so I'm going to ask it anyway. Is crypto?
Yeah, I think back to my point earlier on with MiCA, which is the European crypto directive. They've gone through a whole process of developing these directives, which is a massive deal at scale with a massive bloc like the EU. So it's not going anywhere. It's become its own industry, and I don't think it's going anywhere. There may be the top 10 cryptocurrencies that you see now may be replaced in the future. Who knows? Sometimes in most industries, the ones that are there first have a good chance of staying at the top, but sometimes it's the newcomer that comes along and with something a bit better that takes over. So that is what I'm expecting from crypto in the future, rather than it disappearing.
Yes. I think like any emerging technology or any emerging asset class, you're always going to have this mythology that's built up around it, as I've referred to. I don't know how many stories you've heard about the guy who bought a pizza with 2 Bitcoin and now he's regretting not sitting on $600 million. But I guess we'll know for sure when it's here to stay, once all of that has kind of receded into the background and we're no longer talking in that in those mythological terms. It's already 7 years since 2018, since the DLT regulations came in. You were involved in that to some significant degree, right? To
some extent. I wasn't in the room, so to say, so there was a small working group that did an exceptional job. I was kind of at the outskirts, adding value wherever I could, but yes, that was driven by a small group that were in crypto before me, and they really saw the value, and it's a lot of credit should go to the government of Gibraltar and also to the Gibraltar Financial Services Commission, because it was at their initiative that they decided to develop the DLT framework. So in all other countries, you've got the industry players lobbying and banging their heads on brick walls, trying to get legal and regulatory clarity. Whereas for us, in a way, the carpet was laid there before us, and we were told, here's the framework. Here's the certainty that you're looking for, and some of your clients, early clients, have been looking for. Now, just go out and go work.
And to be clear, DLT stands for Distributed Ledger
Technology, yeah.
And that means?
So when in your own internal records here at ABACAST, you'll have one ledger, one probably Excel spreadsheet or whatever it is that you hold, and that's the reality of what the position is. Distributed means that all of us will have a copy of the ledger. So the best example I can give you is Google Docs. I don't know if you've used it, but the ability to have people working on the same document at the same time is what it means, distributed ledger. So we each have a copy of the current position, and that means what every single wallet is holding at any one point in time. If you try to go rogue and manipulate it, then we will outcast you, because the rest of us have, by majority, the one ledger that says one thing. So if you want to go rogue, then we'll just outcast you and carry on with the ledger that we have. So that's...
Yes. And that applies not just to accounts in the kind of banking sense, but also to contracts, doesn't it? Because you have smart contracts, which are also part of the DLT
Yes. So the smart contracts are just automated mechanisms where if you do something, then there's you give it an input, there's an output. So they're neither smart and they're neither a contract. Right. So that's something which it's funny. It's funny to listen to. We have seen very creative ways in the use of smart contracts as well, and there could be agreements attaching to them. That's kind of one of the few projects that we've seen, but within themselves, it's just something which is smart contracts. All it means is something which is automated and living on the blockchain. And
it's the same principle of verification by multilateral usage.
Yeah.
Let's get on to another acronym, ICOs, and that stands for?
Initial coin offering.
Yeah.
So basically a new token issuance.
Right, okay. Well, that statement alone is baffling to me already, but
yeah.
Do you want to talk to us a little bit, not just about what it means, but the kind of involvement that you personally have had in it and the success that you've enjoyed through it?
So it was a mechanism by which it's falling off a cliff edge since the early days. Again, for good reasons, because the industry is much more developed and it's not the Wild West, which I mentioned before. But all it is, it was being used as another way of raising capital. So instead of issuing shares, I can issue these tokens on the blockchain, which you can purchase. You send me some crypto and I'll send you some tokens on the blockchain. And it was a way by which they were raising capital for their projects. So instead of having a share in my company, now you have this token. Now, what attachment does your token have to my company? That's where we come in. We have the contract, the token purchase contract, or whatever you want to call it. And that is the terms and conditions and the agreement between us as the company with you as the token holder. So a lot of the work that we did was around these ICOs, these token issuances, and you had the agreements to look at. You had the constituting documents of the company to look at, which were a bit different, more bespoke. You had the AML considerations, your AML policies, and just everything that goes around or attaches to a project of that type. But yeah, anytime you do something and you want to do it properly, there's always going to be legal agreements in place and contracts, and that's where we were coming in.
Right. And you said it's fallen off a cliff, but does that mean that it's no longer in favor, or that something else has replaced it?
It's no longer in favor. So there are still some projects that issue tokens, but there has been a kind of a reversal, and people, investors wanting, sometimes they want tokens because perhaps these tokens are useful in a platform that the project is developing, so they're going to be useful for that. But normally now we see a lot of them wanting your traditional equity in the project, so that they have a bit more of a hold on the company.
Right. Perhaps we should move on to talking a little bit about the commonality of our interests, which is that you were in the funds team, or you still are in the funds team, I guess, at Hassan's, very much a part of that. And of course, funds administration is a really big deal for us now. We have a kind of growing and fast developing group of people who are doing that for us. And I agree, it's clearly a very exciting place to be. But how do you see the future of funds in Gibraltar? I mean, where does Gibraltar position itself in the hierarchy of the funds world?
I think we've fallen back a bit. I think we used to do, as a jurisdiction, much more marketing. At least when I started, I remember many trips to London, many trips to Zurich, to big fund conferences, where we were supported by Gibraltar Finance. So Gibraltar Finance had a booth in these conferences, and players like ourselves would attend, and we had a base there at the conference, or even if there were other lawyers and considered my competitors, but we were there all representing Gibraltar. And it's important because I think it keeps us at the forefront, whether subliminally or otherwise. It keeps us in people's minds. I think we need to do more of that. I'm trying to pick that up and do as much as possible. I know you guys do a great job in marketing, and it's important that we all rise to that and market in our own way. We don't need to market together, although we could. I'm a big advocate for that. But we need to get the name out there because our product is as good as anyone else's. If you're looking for a fund structure for EU investors, you won't look at Gibraltar, but neither would you look at Cayman or BVI. You would look at maybe Luxembourg or maybe Dublin to set up your fund for EU investors. So our main competitors are really Cayman and the BVI. And it's always been that way, funnily enough. But I think there are things that we can offer. I think our service is extremely good. I think our clients are not just numbers. I think we really and I think that's a very Gibraltarian thing as well. We provide a very holistic service to our clients. We really get to know them. We really care for our clients. And we put our clients in the center of everything that we do. Hasans has built itself on focusing on the client, not on itself. So I think together with the fact that now, for the first time in a long time, it doesn't seem like we have any obstacles in front of us. So back in 2013, we had the AFIM directive come in, which was a big blow for the industry. Then we had Brexit, then we had COVID, then we had all types of different issues. We had the grey listing. But now, for the first time in a long time, with the in-principle agreement with the EU, it seems like we're putting Brexit behind us as well. I think it's a perfect moment to really give it a big push. Because although Cayman will remain being top, they have an excellent track record in funds. They have a big connection to the US. But not everyone wants to go to Cayman. And that it is that market share that I think we should be attracting to Gibraltar. And our fund structures are super similar to the Cayman. Even our legal systems are based on the English legal system, so there is nothing there which they have that's better than ours. And for everyone on this side of the Atlantic, Gibraltar is super easy to get to. And from a time zone perspective as well, if you have clients in Zurich, clients in Tel Aviv, we have loads of clients in Israel. Then the time difference with Cayman is actually significant in terms of it's late afternoon or in the afternoon when they are starting, then when they are waking up. So the time zones combined with the fact that they're an island and we're not, I think those are the small things that we can use to attract more business. And I think we should. I think once we gain momentum, I think it could be a bit of a snowball effect.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think the treaty is an auspicious moment for us.
Yep.
Not everyone sees it that way, of course, and it remains to be seen how that's going to roll out and the extent to which it becomes embedded just generally right across everything that Gibraltar does and offers. So it's kind of wait and see moment, but I do have a degree of optimism about the way that's going to go. But I think in terms of just bringing that back to the funds area, it sounds to me like you're saying that we're never going to be a Luxembourg, so we may as well we're not going to attract the big UCITS and we're not going to have listed funds here.
Yep.
So let's just try and see how well we can do to ratchet up our game to the Cayman level. Is that the kind of the view at Hassan's? I mean, Hassan's is the big dog in town, is the behemoth of the industry just generally. Is that how you view the world? Like we want to get our game up to the Cayman?
Well, so when we were in the EU, we tried to develop a bit of an industry with UCITS and with the larger alternative investment funds. It never really happened for us. Now that we're out of the EU, that becomes we can't. There's no point anyway, because even if we would set up retail funds here in Gibraltar, you couldn't passport them into the EU, which was the big carrot at the end of the stick. And in terms of competing with the other top fund jurisdictions like Cayman, I don't think it's about getting to their level. I think our service, our product, and our professionalism is as good as you find in Cayman. I sincerely do, and I
totally agree.
That's through my own experiences, but also through conversations. But it's clear that they have the track record and they have the herd mentality in their favor as well. So if everyone is going to Cayman, then the next one will likely go to Cayman as well. So it is that thing that we need to break to get a bit more of the market share. So it's more getting market share rather than getting ourselves up to any standards that we don't have already. I think you would agree that since 2005, our fund administrators, our lawyers, our accountants, everyone has been super skilled in funds work. And we found out with crypto funds, when crypto funds were introduced, everyone got up to speed with crypto super quickly. And the lawyers, the accountants, the compliance officers, the regulator. So in terms of standard and competence, I don't think there's a concern there at all.
I totally agree. I mean, I've actually been to Cayman. I don't know if you have as well, but
no,
I've been to both Cayman and the BVI, and I'm not going to put them down, but I think I referred in the early part of the conversation to the cosmopolitan outlook that we have here. And when I look at Gibraltar and everything you just described, the sheer energy and determination that we have, the client-centric focus, there's a buzz about Gibraltar that, with respect to Cayman and BVI, they just don't have. And you're right, there's a paradigm that says this is the way it's always been, so let's just always do what we've always done. And it's that paradigm shift that we need. What will bring that about? I think only the future will tell. There isn't anything in particular that's going to lead us that way. Maybe just tell us a little bit, what's it like working at Hassan's? And I want to make a little confession. Hassan's was my first job.
I know.
I worked for Hassan's for the first couple of years of my career, and then I was totally the opposite to you. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no focus in what I was doing. I'd landed where I did, and that just took me on a path that I just sort of haphazardly made up as I went along. But what's it like there now? I mean, tell us about how Hassan's is thinking. What's the outlook? Where are you going?
Well, growth through expertise and hard work. It's a super dynamic place to work in. We are big enough, and we have been big enough for many years now, that we can have specialist departments. So in other smaller law firms, you find someone like myself doing a bit of conveyancing, a bit of property, a bit of litigation. Whereas we have our litigation department, they focus on that. We have a private client department, our property department. We focus on financial services, but even within that, I focus on funds and crypto. My partner may focus on insurance, the other one may focus on payments. And that allows you to be, for each lawyer to be quite the generalist, but also specialized in one area. And I think it's very hard to beat when you've got that dynamic within a law firm, because I know my basics in tax and international tax and how our tax system interacts with others from other jurisdictions, but as soon as there's a question which needs a bit more attention, I bring in the tax team. They solve that particular issue. And I think that, I used the word holistic before, it's holistic not only mentality, but actually in what we can offer. We actually cover all types of laws. So our client can come to us, and it's very common that we have a client in one of the boardrooms and they're calling people from downstairs to come up. So he's mentioned crypto now, come up and speak to this guy. Or he needs something to do with tax or HEPS or whatever it is. And it's a super cool way to work.
Great. Aaron, congratulations on your success. Thanks for coming in today. It's been really great to have you. I found the conversation absolutely thrilling and fascinating. So I'm really, really grateful to you for everything you've talked about. And we wish you all the success for the future. Hope it goes really well.
Thank you very much.
God bless.